I belong to you. I belong to you. You do just what you want. You're the one I trust.
What's it into an area? Keo, Samora!
And I'll always be around when you need some love and baby. No one else.
Yeah.
Put you down.
Hey guys, welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. I'm Sai, and this is the home of the Andy Campbell Championship Show, and this is episode 119. The show's available live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. Ace Podcast Nation, of course, you're home to many other great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So give us a follow on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, click that bell for notifications. And of course you can get the audio versions of all the shows and series at your favourite radio and podcast platform. Just search Ace Podcast Nation and there's nearly 400 shows up there on all sorts of subjects. And of course if you want to keep it football, follow at AC Footy Show on all social media platforms. And that'll be streamline your experience, as it were. But just as we wait for those various platforms to fill up, a big thank you to Black Diamond Sports, of course, for all their support around the show and the channel. Black Diamond Sports is a global sports agency representing sports stars from around the world. For more information, visit their social media pages and indeed their website, the links to which are all in the description and the closing credits. And a big thank you to today's sponsor, as usual, Bespoke Financial. And Darren Ralston of Bespoke Financial still giving away a free will worth £140 with any new policy which is taken out. So please check him out and give him a call. Don't miss out on this amazing offer. They've looked after Andy for many a year, and including the critical illness, the injury cover. They are top of their field, providing award-winning service, looking to branch out from outside the northeast, and we are very proud to be sponsored and partner up with such a top-class brand. And I urge you to give them a shout, check out what they've got for you. But with no further ado, let's get the man himself involved, the co-host with the most. He is the goal collector, the fox in the box, the speed demon, the legend among legends, Davy Jones' favourite son, ex-Cardiff City and Middlesbrough striker, Mr. Andy Campbell. Welcome, my friend.
Good evening. How are we?
I'm alright, mate. My chair feels really low, so I feel like look like I'm about 12 years old.
I feel a bit better without Middlesbrough playing Cardiff tomorrow. It takes the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
Apprehension's not there. There's not a fence post sticking up your backside.
Hey, but when you win the draw, that sitting on the fence works out, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's perfect, mate, perfect. But there is so much to talk about in the Championship this week. It is ridiculous. So we're going to get straight into it. First of all and foremost, wanted to send best wishes to Joe Bennett, Cardiff City fullback, who suffered a serious injury in the week, and his season is indeed over. He suffered a knee injury, a medial ligament injury. His season's done. Yeah. Best wishes to Joe. Obviously, not the way he would have wanted to finish the season, but it is what it is, unfortunately, mate. It's one of those things.
Yeah, and listen, injuries are part of the game. They're part and parcel of a career. Some getting better than others, some getting worse. You know what I mean? It's not a nice one. You could tell it was a bad one straight away, though. But I think Joe's Joe's doing his recovery on his social media, so check it out because it showed a video of him coming out on crutches from the hospital yesterday on day one. So yeah, listen, it's a different way, but I think it keeps fans up to touch with what's going on. I think it's a good idea, and I think it'll relate really well for Joe and help him mentally get over it probably better than physically. I think maybe.
Yeah, I think so. It can be a positive thing in the recovery, can it? Like social media and updating people on his situation, mate. The other thing I was going to mention, which we can get to a bit later, I suppose, it's obviously is Joe's contract up in the summer, but I would think Cardiff will offer him a new one. I'd be very surprised if they don't. But they've only got academy players, and I think his form in the last few months has really shown that with the right tactics and formation, he's a very good Championship fullback. Maybe he was struggling a bit with some of the tactics under Harris and the formation, and we had Bacuna at fullback, so I think there was a lot of pressure on him to do a job, be the fullback who was going up and down. But he also knew that there was no cover on the other side.
Yeah, for me, cream always rises. Good players are always good players. They just have blips in form, and Joe gave a couple of silly goals away. He had a couple of bad games, but with the right managers in place, you look at his performances under Neil Warnock were outstanding, consistently outstanding, and his performances so far under Mick have been consistently outstanding again. So for me, you can only judge it on what's happening, and Mick will be so disappointed that he's losing him, because to put that pressure on a young player now for the rest of the season, it'll be tough for a young player to come in regularly. But I think they might see how he goes, and a couple of people might play a little bit out of position because, like I say, to put that pressure on a young player for the running, including the playoffs potentially, is going to be tough.
Yeah, it's one of them, mate, really, because Neil Harris is on the Paris on the panel on Sky tonight, which will be interesting. They haven't got a lot of fullbacks. I really hope they don't revert back to playing Bacuna at fullback and they move NG over to the other side. Like, for me, give the young lad a go. I think it's I'm forgetting his name now.
Bagan.
Bagan. Give him a go, because ultimately I'd rather see a young player who might make the odd error but is playing in the right position and get a bit of experience, and you get to see over a long period, like over a few games now, between now and the end of the season, you can have a good look at him and see if he's good enough.
It's the only way. It's the only way. It's sink or swim time for the young guy. It's the only way to see if he is good enough. You know what I mean? That, as I say, I'm a big advocate of managers giving young players a game. You know what I mean? I got an opportunity as a 16-year-old. So for me, if you're good enough, it doesn't matter how old you are. You know what I mean? If he's got the ability, which he has, because he's played a decent number of games already so far this season, give him the chance and see how he does. And today's a massive game. Cardiff are in form. Cardiff probably on paper should win the game because of the way they're playing. But I know we're going to talk about them in a little bit more detail later on about the couple of games during the week. But I'm fully expecting a positive result tonight, and I'm not expecting to lose.
No, well, it'd be very interesting. Leslie just said he thinks Cardiff are going to get battered. Well, that'd be interesting. Not sure about that, but we'll see. We'll have a little chat. Fraser Campbell's starting, which is a worry because he's been in some good form recently. So before we get to the Championship, we're going to have two little tell me whys, mate, to get us going, get the conversation started, as it was. So. Stuck. In this segment, I give Andy 60 seconds to answer a question or talk about a sub. Just stuck. Just kept coming on and on. Just like going on and on forever and ever. Stop. I give Andy 60 seconds to answer a question or talk about a subject, and it's going to be a couple of interesting ones again this week, mate. So the first question stroke subject is it's like a double whammy, really. Newport are going to be using Cardiff City Stadium for a couple of games to ease the pressure on their pitch, as they obviously have rugby and football over there, and their pitch is looking a bit turgid. But also, Coventry City are getting their stadium back next year. So tell me a bit about both of those, please.
Listen, for me, the only place to play is in your home stadium. You know what I mean? I look at the positives and negatives for Newport County. For me, there's no positives for Newport. It'll be great for the away teams. Bradford City, I'm sure, are playing it. It'll be at Cardiff City. You know what I mean? They're used to playing in a big stadium. The Newport players aren't used to playing in that kind of stadium. Their stadium is tight, it's compact, the pitch suits them the way they're playing. Coventry City, I'm so glad they're going back home. Listen, St Andrews is Birmingham City's ground. It's not Coventry City's ground. You know what I mean? The old Harfield Road and the new stadium is where they should have been playing, and it was politics what made them get out of there. But the rugby's been playing there. I'm sure Saracens have been playing there. But for me, it's the best place for them to go back. And for me, I'm not a big fan of changing homes for short periods of time. It doesn't work for me.
No, you still got 10 seconds left, but I'll let you off that. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, Newport, I can understand the logic behind doing it. Cardiff's not far. Is, you know, at the end of the day, they're going to be playing on a pristine pitch for a couple of games.
I know, but the way I look at it, Si, is do they need a big stadium with no fans?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they just need a quality pitch, mate. Really, they could play on a 4G pitch somewhere, couldn't they?
So they could have gone to a non-league ground in the area because the pitch should be decent with no games being played in the last 3 months. So, you know, I mean, I just think sometimes it doesn't need to happen because Cardiff City's pitch is going to have more games on than it needs. They've got to think of themselves as well. There's pros and cons for everything. You know what I mean? If it's a financial decision, then fine. But I can't see Cardiff getting much out of it.
No, I can't imagine that Newport have paid Cardiff a great deal of money for that. Is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, is what it is. So the second question is the accidental handball rule has been changed, and I would like to know, does the constant changing of the rules mid-season just add to the confusion and overcomplicate the beautiful game? And your time starts now.
For me, the handball rule was always simple when it was if your arm was in an unnatural position, then it's a penalty. And I'm all for that because you see defenders now defending with the hands behind the back, which is unnatural anyway because you never, ever, ever have your hands behind your back. So if the ball hits your arm, it still potentially should still be a penalty. But they've changed it now that if it does hit your arm and it's unintentional, according to the ref, to VAR, the linesman, the fourth official, whoever's making these kind of decisions, for me, good players can get that ball into any area they want. So if Messi wants to chip a ball into someone's hands, he's going to be able to do it. And I think that's so unfair because to gain the slightest advantage is what players do. You know what I mean? They're on about diving in games, but this is a form of the same thing. You know what I mean? For me, it's got to be black and white. You know what I mean? For me, if your arm's above your head or in an unnatural position, you know what I mean? It's like elevation. Say, if I'm jumping for a header, I didn't normally do that, by the way, but if I jump for a header, I can't jump with my hands by my side. I've got to jump with my arms next to me. So the only way to do that is by putting your arms in a natural position.
Time's up. Yeah, I don't think you should be changing the rules halfway through the season, particularly in a season where we've already had some rule changes and adaptations. And when VAR and stuff like that and goal line technology and everything, it's all a bit muddled and overcomplicated at the moment. And I just believe that adding or changing it during the season is only going to make that more confusing for the referees, for the players, for everyone. Should have just left it as it was till the end of the season, and then you readdress it. You take away what you're going to take away. You hopefully VAR and. But this is what you're going to do. But this
is the thing side for me, though. You know what I mean? It takes the enjoyment out of the games that I looked at. I watched games through the week where players don't celebrate because they're expecting the goals to be chalked off, or teams are celebrating. They're back to the halfway line. Chelsea game last night. Chelsea scored a goal which was offside by half a millimetre, I think, Werner. And so they're all back ready to take kick-off, and then the referee cancels the goal, and it's embarrassing. You know what I mean? If fans were there, fans are celebrating non-goals, and for me, we need to get past this. You know what I mean? I don't agree with that.
Leslie says, I didn't see it, so I can't comment, but he said, did you watch the West Brom game last night?
I don't agree. The ball does hit hand, but Reece David Evans says something about natural position and jumping with elevation, and if you've got to jump with elevation, you have to use your arms. Unless they say footballers have to jump without using their arms, then they've got to change every rule because it's just laughable.
Like, I haven't seen that one. One thing I would say is with the unnatural position thing, that it is almost like what you think is unnatural, I might not, and you can get a bit. It's subjective. That can be problematic.
Not if referees decide, or the League Referees Association, whatever it is, decide what is unnatural position. So unnatural position for me is if my feet are planted on the floor, if my arms are up above, then that's an unnatural position. If I'm jumping in the air, it's a natural position because I've got it. Unless my arms are above my head, that's an unnatural position. But elevation, you've got to jump up, and there's got to be nowhere above your shoulder. Anything above your shoulder is an unnatural position. They've just got to. The rules are a bit grey at the minute.
So I'll come back to that comment now in a minute. The other thing as well, mate. So, if you say someone's running out to charge the ball down, and they sort of turn, don't they? And they not turn their back fully, but they turn slightly to block the ball. You quite often will put an arm up like that naturally. That's a natural action because everyone who would do that action would do the same thing. But if the ball hits you and your arm's up here like that and you've got your back to the thing, that's got to be a handball because your arm's up in the air.
Yeah.
But that's a natural action. Do you know what I mean? And my point being, it's a that it can get confusing for referees.
No, but that's a natural reaction, but that's not a natural body shape of a person. Because if you're putting your arms up there to protect yourself, it's unnatural. You're not protecting yourself. It's you know what I mean. It's stopping it's gaining an advantage. It's what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got to. We need clarification on the wording of natural, unnatural, and I agree with Gaz. I'm so glad it's not in the Championship.
Oh yes. Riverside FC 2019 says clear light and day between defender and attacker should be classed as offside. Back to the old days. And the one thing I'd add to that is with this VAR stuff and offsides, how you can give someone offside if their arm is off, if their hand is offside, when if they use their hands to score a goal, it wouldn't be given because it's handball. So as far as I'm concerned, you should only be judged if they're going to judge it on limbs and inches and all this. It has to be on things which you can legally. But this is what Riverside just said there. That would stop that decision because then the daylight wouldn't be the arm, for example. You know what I mean? So for me, it's the offside's got to be either head or foot. You know what I mean? So I just think we should just get rid of VAR, mate. Just get rid of VAR. Just get rid of it. And just keep goal line technology and then bin VAR at the end of the season.
That doesn't work all the time, does it? To be honest.
Only once, mate. It
doesn't matter. And that relegated a team.
Yeah, spot on, mate. But I think generally, the Hawkeye is proven in various sports, isn't it? VAR, video assistant referees. Yes, they've been proven in other sports, but in my opinion, this last year has shown that at the moment they cannot be effectively used in football. But we'll see if they decide to change it and do it.
We also need. I also would like to hear what's going on between referees and the VAR officials or whoever, because
they do in rugby.
I watched the Sheffield United game against when Phil Jagiello got sent off, and whoever's told the referee to go and look at the monitor to say he's last man, I disagree, because there was no way in the world he was last man, because you had a defender covering, you got somebody going back. You know what I mean? For me, it's a yellow, definitely yellow. I wouldn't give him a red card. We're ruining football. We're causing problems when we don't need to.
But then isn't that up to when the referee goes to look at that monitor? Surely he's got to look at that for himself and say, well, no, he's not the...
Yeah, but he's been advised to. So why does he...
He's only been advised to look at it. He hasn't been advised...
I know, but if he's been advised to, you know what I mean, there's more into it, and you don't know what's being said in his ear. Because if he's given a yellow card for the incident, then he's seen it. So he's given a decision for what he saw. So why does he need to look at it again?
Yeah, I guess if they think he's missed something. But then, ultimately, I think if you've got the fourth official mic'd up, what you can do then is the referee's got to have the final decision, ultimately, and I think that's important. So what you need to do is you need to have the VAR people saying, right, we've seen this, we think you need to look at it, and then that's it. point him to what he needs to look at. But then the referee makes that decision, isn't it?
You've just said it though. For me, you've just said it. It's got to be a clear and obvious mistake, and it wasn't a clear and obvious mistake because he's seen the tackle. It was an obvious tackle. He brought him down. You know what I mean?
But isn't there something in there about missing it? Like if in case the referee doesn't see something because his angle's blocked.
I agree. But his angle wasn't blocked because he gave him a yellow card, so he's seen exactly what he needed to see. But he still gave him a red. But then he changed it to a red.
It's an interesting one. It's just ridiculous. I just don't like it, mate, at all.
Yeah.
But I really hope they get rid of it. Okay, let's get in to the championships. But there's a few people saying about why can't the refs hear, what they're saying, and I think that will be vital, mate.
I agree.
Not many fans of VAR, mate. I've got to say.
No.
So here's a question: if Cardiff City could get to the playoff final but lose, stay in the championship and avoid VAR but have a fantastic season and run, would you take it over promotion?
No. Let's risk VAR.
Well, in fairness, the last time Cardiff were in the Premier League, they got screwed over by the refereeing. So maybe the VAR would have spotted the Chelsea game where the player was 6 yards offside or whatever. But there you go. Here's what it is. It's in the past, Andy. Let it go.
No, never. Never.
Rotherham game off COVID.
That's more times than I can remember that.
Rotherham, have they had the most games called off for COVID, Rotherham?
Yes.
Do you believe that it's because they've got such a small squad? So if they get a couple of players, they're in a tough spot?
Well, they're in form,
Are they just in a high-risk part of the country?
They're in form, and they were playing Coventry tomorrow, so I'd be very surprised that they didn't want to play it. So I think it must be true, because tomorrow's a massive game, and they're going into it off a fantastic away victory at Sheffield Wednesday. So I'll be surprised if it's not true.
Next two games have been called off against Brentford and Luton Town.
Rotherham against Coventry.
Rotherham against Brentford and Luton Town, both being postponed. Players and staff affected will be required to self-isolate. So it sounds like some of the staff have got it or been in contact with it, and they don't clarify if it's just because they've been in contact with someone who has had it or if they've had it. Because according to the figures, there was only 2 positive cases returned from 5,856 players and club staff who tested between the 22nd and 28th of February. That was last week. So all of a sudden, are you telling me that both those positive cases were in Rotherham? It's a weird one, mate, because they don't give you any clarification. It could be maybe that the squad as a whole has come into contact with someone, so there's 5 or 6 players who have to isolate because they've come into contact with someone who's had it.
Yeah.
But because they don't clarify, and then they release those figures, it's very contradictory. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's difficult to kind of work out what's what. But right, let's go team by team, and as it goes, I believe we start with Rotherham, don't we?
No, Wycombe. Wycombe, a tough week against I with a couple of defeats. Obviously started with Norwich City last weekend, and then they played Watford, so couldn't have gone any harder. They didn't disgrace themselves. They got beat 2-0 in both games, but they missed chances at crucial times. I watched the Watford game in the week and that extended highlights, and they were 2-0 down at the time, but they missed some glorious chances from set pieces, and you can't afford, with fine margins at the minute, you can't afford to miss those kind of chances if you're going to stay in the league. And I don't believe they will stay in the league. I think they've given themselves some credit. The manager's done really well, I think, with the size of the club without any fans, because I think fans would have made a difference to Wycombe Wanderers Football Club this year.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I feel for them because they're struggling to score goals, and like you say, they're missing chances at important times.
Yeah. But I also feel sorry for them.
2 tough games, mate.
Yeah, I also feel sorry for the club because, listen, the chances of Wycombe getting back in the Championship again is probably slim, because the players who've played well this year will probably leave. They'll probably have to start afresh somewhere. You know what I mean? It'll be a little bit more difficult to get promoted again, and the fans haven't had an opportunity to see their team in the Championship, which must be heartbreaking.
Yes, this is difficult. We've got a couple of interesting questions and stuff, which I'll come back to at the end to some of those, because Riverside said about ex-players on VAR and stuff like that. So I'll come back to them towards the end of the show. Sheffield Wednesday next up, mate.
Sorry. They're having a nightmare. Absolute shocker. I honestly don't know what's going on. They've got a new manager in place, Darren Moore from Doncaster Rovers, which listen, it's a big job. The Sheffield Wednesday, there's no club who has a divine right to stay in the league, but they lost against Luton Town at the weekend. They lost in the local derby against Rotherham. For Sheffield Wednesday to lose against Luton Town and Rotherham, there's something drastically wrong, and I can't put my finger on it. They're scoring goals, but they're letting a bucket load in, and every time we have this show side on a Friday, we churn over two more games. They're 7 points away from safety. Yes, they've got one game in hand. They should be 6 points more in trouble, in my opinion.
Yep.
It's going to be a huge ask, and if they do get out of it, then Darren Moore deserves huge credit for it.
Yeah, and you can't blame Darren Moore if they do end up going down either. He's come in at a difficult time when they're already struggling. And let's make no mistake, mate. They should be 6 points worse off.
Yeah. But the board's also got to take responsibility for sacking Tony Pulis and, or hiring Tony Pulis. Either or, you can't hire him and then sack somebody. You've got to give somebody an opportunity. It doesn't matter what the brand of football's like. It doesn't matter, Tony Pulis brought a couple of players in. He brought in Callum Patterson. He brought in Aidan Flint. Yes, he got injured. He brought in another couple of players. But then to sack him after 6 games was crazy.
In fairness, mate, what I don't get about it is, you don't bring Tony Pulis in to play attacking, free-flowing football, do you?
Oh, you know exactly.
You're bringing him in to just be...
steady the ship.
Just try and stay up, basically. Especially because they had that 6 points. So the plan was to just stay up at all costs. So to then sack him... What, did they sack him because they got the 6 points back and they thought, all right, okay, we're all right now?
They sacked him because they weren't happy with the style of football.
Which
but
is
they knew the style of football.
Mate. Anyone tell me how many games Tony Pulis was in charge for Sheffield Wednesday for? Because he wasn't in charge for long, was he?
I think it was 6. I'm sure it was 6, 5 or 6.
That is, I find that mind-blowing. I got to be honest. Moving on, though, Birmingham City was next up, my friend.
Well, are we doing Rotherham? I know we spoke about them a little bit.
Did I? No, sorry, I missed them out. Yeah, Rotherham.
Mixed week. Lost against Reading 1-0 at the weekend, but then through the week they had a fantastic result and against Sheffield Wednesday. The final goal in the 95th minute from Ladapo was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. He got the ball on the halfway line on his own. He dribbled. I thought he was going in the corner, waste time to take a draw, and then he unleashed a shot from about 25 yards in the bottom corner. Fantastic. And
superb,
the celebrations was like they won the league. You know what I mean? It just shows how much chance they've got to stay open. Yeah, huge. But then you can, from Sheffield Wednesday's point of view, it's a massive downer. So
that could have been the one, mate. Which
catalyst, yeah.
Yeah, that could be the one. But yeah, I'm going to talk about Ladapo a bit later on, a bit more. Next up is Birmingham City, mate.
Birmingham they've had a good week. You know what I mean? The big QPR
followed up a good win against QPR.
Yeah, and QPR have picked up recently, and then away draw at Huddersfield Town. Obviously, Leslie Coates is their favourite team. Listen, 4 points out of a week's a really good turnaround for Birmingham City, considering the results that they've been having recently. That's the first time in about 3 months they've had 2 positive results in a week.
Yeah, well, you know me, mate. I quite enjoy watching Birmingham play. I thought Roberts was outstanding again.
Yeah.
And he's a big player for them. I just wonder, he's had the odd injury. They got to keep him fit. Because he seems to be coming into his own. He seems to really, really be settled. He's got himself a goal. Interesting that Pedersen scored for him on Saturday against QPR. Christian Pedersen looks quite the player. And
he's listen.
Look at him, mate.
Yeah, I think they've got some really interesting midfield players, wide players for me, with a lot of creativity. I just don't know what's going wrong with it. I don't know if it's first season syndrome for the manager and he's getting used to his players, or there's a fallout with some of the young players that they had last year with Bellingham and Etal. But for me, you know what I mean, they've still got good Championship players in that group. You know what I mean, some good centre forward, Jukovic, Hogan. So you know what I mean. For
Do you
me,
think that maybe
they'll be
there's
all right.
too many? They've got like a large group of players trying to settle in, because they've got quite a few players new to the club or coming in from the youth team. Maybe there's too many players who are trying to find their feet at the football club or in football generally.
Yeah, maybe
Because
that's the case. Maybe it's he doesn't have a settled team. How many times, you know what I mean, being a Birmingham fan, got any Birmingham fans in, tell us, has he kept the same team week in, week out? Because when I know watching Ito at Middlesbrough, he didn't change the team at all. So he kept the same team week in, week out. So, you know what I mean, and he got positive results week in, week out. So it's so difficult to keep changing the team.
Yeah, it is. Like Birmingham, on one day they look very good, and then the next day they can look a bit inconsistent.
10 games, I didn't know you got that many.
Yeah, recent Gavin, but said 10 games, 1 win, 4 draws. You know, it's not the best record, but like
it's not the
you're
worst,
bringing him in for a reason. And I do wonder whether they got the 6 points back and thought, oh, that was going to be the difference between us, you know, being in any real trouble, maybe a bit arrogantly or a bit cockily, and then, you know, it's the way it's panning out. Looks like a silly decision, doesn't it? Next up is Coventry, mate.
They got a decent draw against Blackburn Rovers away from home on Saturday. I watched them against Middlesbrough through the week, and to be fair, Middlesbrough were very lucky to get the second goal. George Saville just walked it in. Basically, it was a mistake by the defender and the goalkeeper, bit of a mix-up, and I felt sorry for them really, because they didn't do anything to lose the game, but they lacked a bit of quality in the second half. Along with Middlesbrough, by the way, it was a nothing second half. We just passed everybody by, but they need to make sure that they don't end up losing games. You know what I mean? Because a point there would have been a big point. It would have been two draws in the week, which does look a little bit better. Whereas now with 2 under feet, you've then put pressure on yourself this week to go and play Derby, then go and play Rotherham next weekend. You know what I mean? So and then Luton Town, then Wycombe. So the next 4 or 5 games for Coventry are going to keep them in the league if they get enough points.
Yeah, they've been pretty steady all season, haven't they? They've been quite consistent.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting how they fare in those games. Next up is Huddersfield. They had a shocking Saturday, followed by a point at Birmingham. Yeah,
they had a shocking Saturday. Not much better midweek, and then they're going to have a dreadful Friday. So it won't be a very good week for Leslie Coates' team. That the Preston beat them heavily 3-0. Birmingham City, I don't think it's a good result, Si. If you've got aspirations to be away from the bottom 5, 6, you've got to be beating Birmingham City in and around you. Yes, Birmingham picked up a little bit, but I can't imagine. I didn't see the game, but I can't imagine it'll be a game for the purists. With both teams not wanting to lose the game, and as they're boring 0-0 at half time. Fraser Campbell scores, and then they go and shoot themselves in the foot straight away, and Roberts gets the equaliser for Birmingham. So yeah, disappointing probably for Huddersfield not to keep the lead for longer and kick on a little bit. Indeed.
Just quickly, interesting team news for Cardiff City. They got Joel Bagan playing at left back. And Tom Sang starts at right wing back. Perry NG is not included on the bench, so I would assume he's carrying some sort of knock. Harry Wilson at number 10 behind Murphy and Moore, with Rolls and Vokes in the middle. But 2 very young fullbacks for Cardiff there, mate.
Yeah, extremely.
But, go on, we'll get to Cardiff in a second anyway, mate. Let's push on. Huddersfield, I feel like they need to be careful, just with some of their recent performances. You just need to make sure they just don't get sucked right in again like they did last year.
Yeah, they can't afford to. Listen, they've had an amazing season considering the last season, so they're in a good position. If they can finish the season like they did last year, they'll be safe.
Yeah. Derby was next. They drew with their arch rivals Forest on the Friday, and then they got thumped by the mighty Bluebirds 4-0 on Tuesday. And I texted you, didn't I, about Wayne Rooney's post-match interview after the Cardiff game. He wasn't happy, but he made some really weird comments. Like, he said it was with the Derby's own, their TV station or whatever, their YouTube channel, and he said that basically he wanted to give some players a rest, and he felt like this was the game to do it, and he made, I think, 6 changes or 5 changes. And to me, I said to you, like, to make that amount of changes against Cardiff or Barnsley at this point in time is a mistake for any team, because they're the 2 form teams in the league, and obviously Norwich are now starting to get that bit of form. It was a bizarre decision for me. I don't know what you think.
I see on the other side that does Wayne probably just write the game off, thinking that Cardiff are going to beat us anyway, so I'll rest the players and we focus on the next game and the games that we're going to win, with games coming up like Coventry City the weekend, then Barnsley, then Millwall. You know what I mean? So they've got some winnable games. So maybe he's focusing on the winnable games to keep them up. Because for me, players can't play every game. He hasn't got a big squad. Not. You know what I mean? So he's got to pick the games which he thinks will keep Derby in the league, and then he focuses on next season. You know what I mean? That I watched him against Nottingham Forest second half last Friday, and they were very lucky to get the draw. Yes, they scored an amazing goal, but they were very lucky to get a draw.
Yeah. What do you think of Derby at the moment? I mean, look, where they looked like they really picked up when Rooney first got the job full time. Yeah. And they just having a tricky couple of weeks, games. They're just getting the job done. I think Wayne's started a little bit of a fairy tale that he was getting the results, he was keeping clean sheets, he was scoring goals, he was smiling, he was happy. The Championship's not like that, unfortunately. There's not many Championship managers who are smiling and happy all the time. It's a roller coaster. Win one week, lose the next. You know what I mean? It's consistency with the teams, with the players, with the formations, with the selections, and to make that many changes and still expect to get a result isn't going to happen. So for me, I think he wrote it off. You know what I mean? For me, changing players, 6 players, I'm not going to win anyway. I've got to focus on the games that I can win, and we'll go and try and win those ones. To me,
which is dangerous, by the way.
I don't see. There's a couple of reasons I don't see that. One, the league being what it is, like anyone could beat anyone. It's just the way the league is. It's bizarre, but also like Rooney's being the competitor and the high standards that he expects of himself, of players. I can't imagine him writing off a game. Even.
No, but Si, if you've got 6 of your best players who can't play because they're physically not ready to play another game, you've got to replace them with 6 other players. And Wayne isn't stupid. You've just said there he's experienced. He knows those 6 other players that come into that team are not as good as the 6 players he's took out. Because if they were, they'd be in the team. So he knows he's putting a weakened side out. And what happens with a weakened side is they take a beating because they're not good enough, or they're not as good as the other players. And B, they haven't had enough match practice, game practice, minutes in the legs, which is going to have an effect. And it did. The longer the game went, you know what I mean. Cardiff scored 2 late goals. They scored 2 late goals because there was nothing in the Derby team which worried Cardiff City.
Yeah, there was something else he said in his post-match interview, which irked me a little bit, which I'm going to discuss a bit later on. But next up is QPR, mate. We mentioned they'd found a bit of consistency. They've now found consistency the other way.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, but I think what they had last month, I think is put them in good stead. They lost against Birmingham, which I think they'll be disappointed with the run they were being on. And then in midweek they lost against Barnsley, which is no disgrace because Barnsley have got themselves in a fantastic position, which we'll talk about very soon. But yeah, the terrible week, but I'm sure they'll get back on. But they're so inconsistent, it's absolutely scary.
It is, yeah. And they really looked like they turned the corner, but it's not to be, my friend, not to be. Next up is the mighty Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, well, as I watched Friday night's game against Derby, I thought they were excellent for long periods of the game, and it was only a Colin Kazim-Richards worldie which denied them the win. And then they got the home game against Luton Town, for me, fully expecting them to win, and then they're going crumble again. So Nottingham Forest must be so frustrating for Chris Hughton, the fans, for everybody else, and yeah, I think that the quicker they see the end of the season off and can plan for next season, the better, because this season, along with the last game of last season, has been an absolute write-off for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, I filmed the first episode of My Story a couple of days ago with author and Forest fan Gary Boatsy-Clark, who obviously watches the show. He's a big Forest fan, and it was interesting picking his brains about why he thought, as a fan, why they've sort of psychologically crumbled since that last day of the season, and very interesting. And he actually said that he didn't think it was necessarily the the last day of the season. It was a couple of games before that they conceded a last-minute goal to Derby, which he said just broke the players, and they haven't been the same since, which is quite fascinating. Obviously, it's a big rivalry, but I didn't realise they needed a point from the last 3 games of the last season and didn't pick it up just to get to the playoffs. So,
besides, they could have still been beaten 3-0 and still stayed up, but they kept going for goals. I mean, we did. I still have out today because
that watch along.
It was ridiculous.
Beautiful.
Because we were working it out that even at 5-1 they still would have been safe, but then they're still trying to go and get goals. It's just stupidity, madness. No wonder he hasn't got a job anymore.
No, that's it, mate. Next up, Blackburn Rovers, the team I tipped to go for the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
They are just not what I thought they were going to be.
Last Friday, I said that Tony could be the next manager to go. I think he's really struggling unless he gets a result this weekend. I think it could be the end of him, because they play Swansea midweek, they play Millwall tomorrow, then they play Brentford, then they play Bristol City, then they play Norwich. So for me, they've got a really ridiculous month ahead. Obviously 2 games, 1 point, a home against Coventry, which isn't a great result, and then they're going to lose to Reading away, which is no disgrace, but Blackburn have got the players to win games. They've got experienced Premier League footballers. They've got loads of quality throughout the football club, on the coaching staff, and the owners and the club will be expecting more. The fans will be demanding more, and this has been a disastrous season.
Swag on the time there says Norwich and Sunderland double tomorrow, lads. Top up the Cheltenham pot.
I don't know who Sunderland are playing, but I fancy Norwich every time they go on that grass.
Oh yes. So next up is Preston North End. Bit of inconsistency from them again. Really impressive 3-0 victory versus Huddersfield, followed up by a 2-1 loss to Millwall. Although Millwall have been good lately. Yeah,
the Huddersfield game, I thought they were excellent. Got Sinclair back to his best. Ched Evans got himself on the score sheet. They've got just quality throughout going forward. Side just do impress me every time I see them going forward. But then the same old problems come back to haunt them in midweek. They go 1-0 ahead through Ched Evans again. But then they lose a goal straight just before half time, which puts the pressure on, and then letting late goals in. You know what I mean? If they'd have got that point, another point on the board towards the playoffs, and it leaves them unbeaten this week, where instead they go and lose that late goal with 4 minutes to go, and it just looks like a really bad week. That would have been 4 unbeaten. Instead they're coming back to the weekend, and they play Bournemouth tomorrow, which is obviously going to be a difficult one anyway.
Yeah, yes, indeed. It's they concede, don't they? When they always seem to concede at bad times as well. Like I noticed, a lot of their goals will come not long after they've scored, so they concede like a lot of goals straight after they've scored. And even in the Millwall game, they scored after 12 minutes, and then Malone scored for Millwall just before half time. And it's
timing the goal side. You can't give a goal away just before half time and at full time. It's just, you know what I mean? Is it concentration levels? Is it fitness levels? Is it tactics? Is it belief? What is it? You know what I mean? Because you start to question lots of things.
Oh yes. Okay. Then we've got, who's next, mate? Who's next?
Luton Town.
Luton Town.
Fantastic week. Absolutely fantastic week. So, Sheffield Wednesday, they were 2-0 down after half time. The manager brings on three substitutes at half time, and they turn it around and they win 3-2 with an 86-minute winner from Adebayo. Absolutely fantastic turnaround, you know what I mean, in the second half. But Luton have had a great season, side, you know what I mean, and the Luton players probably take the foot off the gas after an amazing weekend. Go to Nottingham Forest, play with no pressure, go and turn up there and get another 3 points with a Tunnicliffe winner with just on the hour, I think. So absolutely brilliant week, and they'll be looking up rather than down, because they're on 44 points, and Rotherham are on 32. So a good 12-point gap at the minute. I think that but Luton have had a fantastic season.
Yeah, been really impressive. Ryan Tunnicliffe picked up 2 vital goals. He put him in the thumbnail this week. Thought it was amazing. Absolutely outstanding for Luton in both games. Those 2 goals, you just don't know how vital they could be.
Huge sign.
2 wins back to back. It's an interesting one. Next up, mate, was Bristol City.
Obviously, they played Swansea on Saturday. They were getting beat 1-0, turned it around, beaten 3-1. Nigel Pearson's first game in charge, really. and then they played Bournemouth at the weekend. Midweek, 1-0 up. The equaliser. I will be talking about him later on. Was a shocker. And then the winning goal for Bournemouth was in the 96th minute or something, which was just heartbreaking because another point or even 3, which he probably should have been, pushing them towards the playoffs would have been a fantastic achievement for a new manager. But they'll restock. They'll go again. They're in good hands. Big Nigel Pearson. He was my captain at Middlesbrough. He'll get them going. A long-term venture. But I think Bristol City will need to start achieving something over the next season or two.
Yeah, ultimately, I've been very disappointed with Bristol this year, but I think Nigel Pearson will steady the ship now and get them ready for it, mate, as it were. Next up was Stoke City, is it, or Millwall?
Yeah, no, Stoke City. Stoke. Not a great week, but against 2 of the top 3 in the league. They lost to Brentford 2-1, lost to Swansea 2-1. It's games. Stoke City at Brentford 1-0 up after 1 minute, and then, you know what I mean, up to the hour mark, and then all of a sudden the 2-1 down. Ivan Toney scores again. Swansea City 1-0 ahead again, 2-1, 95th minute penalty. You know what I mean? It's when you're ahead, you've got to see games out sometimes. It doesn't matter if you score in the first minute or the last minute. You know what I mean? Are they scoring too early? You know, and people said to me, scored too early. That was a stupid thing to say. You know what I mean? You're ahead. It doesn't matter if you score in the first minute or the last minute. You know what I mean? You've got to defend. You know what I mean? You can't think that because you scored in the first minute, the game's going to be easy. You've got to start again like it's 0-0. Go again, go and get the second goal, because the second goal is what kills teams off. And for me, I think Stoke sometimes, from an outsider looking in, they look like that the 1-0 up, the game's going to win. It's too easy, but teams always come back at them.
I always think they look like they expect to just turn up and win, particularly if they do get that early goal. And
that's 3 defeats. Three defeats on the belt. Yeah, 3 defeats on the belt for them.
And the thing is, the way the season is being, the way they're doing it at the moment, where you're playing 2 games constantly, every week, 2 games, what that does is, if you do get a couple of losses, you are in a bit of trouble, because it's very quick to pick up those, like bad runs or a couple of bad results. It can have a big impact quicker than maybe normally you've got like a week or so to just get yourself together and try and work it out, re-galvanise the troops, as it were. You haven't got that at the moment, and I think it makes it a lot more difficult, particularly if you're having a bit of a bad run. Next up is Millwall, mate.
Yeah, mixed week. Lost to Barnsley, which obviously is no disgrace, because Barnsley picked up on a great run of form, and then they're going to beat Preston at home, which is a very good result. So Millwall, they're trying to push for the playoffs. They're doing everything they can with Gary Rowett. They've had a great couple of months with the amount of unbeaten games they've had. It was always going to come to an end, but can they get back and continue the form? Because they play Blackburn tomorrow, which will be a difficult game on paper, but Blackburn will do the travel well. Not so far. They've lost so many games, so Millwall will be looking forward for a win tomorrow on 3 points.
Yeah, Millwall's a funny one. Like, if you take out that bad run they had, they'd be right up there, because their form either side of that bad run has been very good. They just haven't quite been able to. They had that tricky spell, didn't they, where they just couldn't score a goal. Yeah. And they've
drawn too many. Drawn too many games, but still undefeated. So that's where they're pushing towards the playoffs, because they're undefeated. So if they could turn those draws into wins, they'd be in the playoffs.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of teams looking up to the playoffs, my friends, your hometown, Middlesbrough, an interesting week. Yeah,
they played Cardiff at the weekend. I'll be honest, I thought they were the better side. I thought in midfield they absolutely dominated the game. I thought they were very good. They were losing for long periods of the game and equalised with 5 minutes to go through Johnny Howson. If any team was going to upset Cardiff City the way that they want to play and dominate games, it was going to be Neil Warnock in Cardiff City, and he did. He flooded areas which Cardiff are strong, and Cardiff didn't have the answers for them, and Cardiff have come out of that game knowing they've been in the game, and people say about the winning run not carrying on for Cardiff, but for me, I look at the positives. It's a point gained. Yes, Middlesbrough scored late, but Middlesbrough were the better sides for probably an hour in that game, if not longer. So overall, Middlesbrough was disappointed that they didn't get the goals. They don't create enough for me, Middlesbrough. You know what I mean? It's that in between the midfield and the front. You know what I mean? Up front, They don't score enough goals. People say that. Blame centre forwards, but do they get enough chances to score goals? If Britt Sombolonga and Akpom and loads and Fletcher and all these guys, are they missing enough chances? No, they're not missing enough chances. Yes, people can say they're not good enough, but they're not missing chances because they're not getting enough. One chance a game isn't enough. Look at Andy Cole at United. Andy Cole used to miss 7, 8, 9, 10 chances. He used to get 2 or 3. And his goal scoring record's phenomenal. But he missed more chances than he scored.
Oh God, he missed so many chances, mate, didn't he?
Yeah.
Andy Cole, like so.
But
many.
he was still top
Still
class.
one of the record goal scorers, isn't he? Because they created so many chances.
Yeah.
Leslie asks ask Andy if he's related to his namesake Campbell, who will score for Huddersfield tonight.
Fraser. No, it must be a brother from another mother, but no, he's not. No, he's a good lad though. He's a very talented, very talented player. Yeah, very talented player. Good lad, very humble. And I've loved following his career from all the way through to now, and I hope he does well. And listen, part of me hopes he does score as long as Cardiff City win 3-4-1. I don't mind.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Fraser Campbell. I think he's a vastly underrated footballer, and what I like is he really works hard for whatever team he's playing for. He does sometimes need a run of games to get going, but once he does get going, he'll bag you some goals, particularly in Championship level. Time for the two form teams, mate. Starting with Barnsley.
Have we not missed Cardiff out there?
No, Cardiff are above them.
No,
on my table. It's because it's a live table, so we'll go with that.
Which one? Who are we on?
We'll go with Barnsley, mate, because Cardiff are above them.
I don't think they are. Your table must be wrong somehow.
It's because it's a live one ready for the game to start, or it's because the game started.
Oh, right, okay.
So
sorry.
it gives Cardiff a point.
Oh, right, okay, sorry. So Barnsley, I'm starting to run out of good things to say. It's they've won so many games on the belt, it's absolutely scary. But they play Millwall up there, beat them comfortably. QPR being unbeaten for 5-6 games, beat them even better away from home. You know what I mean? Scoring goals, creating chances. We said last year, I've never seen a team in the Championship create chances like I've just spoken about. Middlesbrough struggling. Barnsley have created more chances this season and last season. You know what I mean? The problem is that they haven't put them away. Now they've started to put them away. They've given themselves an opportunity. And listen, Barnsley escaped last year in the last minute of normal time on the 46th game of the season. This year, with 12 games to go, 13 games to go, they are sitting in 7th place on 54 points. It's absolutely ridiculous. Fantastic. It's like fairy tale.
Yeah. Mate, well, I put Carlton. I mentioned Carlton Morris last week for them. He was a sub in the QPR game, but really, they just create so many chances, man. They're so exciting going forward, and what they seem to have managed to do this season now, or certainly since Christmas, is they've shored it up at the back. And we've kind of said that all along, is if they can return to their League One defensive record, they will be a dangerous team because they create so many chances.
Yeah.
But last year they just conceded too many goals. They do seem to have got that together, and they're a dangerous team, mate. I really
I
believe
agree
that no one would want to play them at the moment.
We've always said that, isn't it? We've always said there's a team who comes from nowhere.
Yeah, they could be them if they can keep their defensive record going. Just simply because anyone in the Championship who creates that many chances has got a good chance of doing well, as long as they can keep it tied to the back.
Yeah.
And like, how many teams in this, as we're working up the table, how many teams down, which we've already covered, have we said, pretty good, they got some good strikers or good wingers or good midfielders, but they can't defend for toffee, they let too many goals in, concede at the wrong times, stuff like that.
So we said last year, didn't we? We said the amount of clean sheets they kept in League One, but they didn't score enough goals, and then they scored loads of goals last year, but they let in more goals, and that's why they just didn't have the balance. And now they've got a balance. They've got a manager who they believe in. The players are responding to him fantastically well, and yeah, I'm disappointed for the fans because Oakwell's a great stadium when it's full. You know what I mean? It bounces that stadium when it's full, and it'd be, if they can get anywhere near the playoffs and fans can come back, it'd be great for that football club. It's a nice place to play.
Indeed, mate. Next up is Cardiff City. Middlesbrough, as we mentioned, we thought Middlesbrough should have won that. They were the better team. And then they gave Derby a bit of a thumping. And by the way, they scored 4 very good goals.
Yeah, well, the Middlesbrough game, listen, it was It was a point gained for me. You know what I mean? Obviously, Sean Morrison got the goal. It's so important how the defenders are chipping in with the goals, not putting too much pressure on Kiefer and Wilson and some of the other players, and the goals are getting shared around. That's the important thing for me. The Middlesbrough game, I thought that they came out of a little bit unscathed, where you know what I mean, for me the result flattered them a little bit, but you take the positives out. We're going back to South Wales with a point at Middlesbrough was a good result. You go into the Derby game, I thought Bakuna was in his rightful position, gets 2 calls out of this world. For me, it all starts with the centre forward. You know what I mean? And I look at Kiefer Moore and his work rate, his desire, his attitude,
his hold-up play, mate, is superb.
But his willingness to run into the channels and into the corners and do things that nobody else wants to do is selfless. And I can't praise him enough. And it must just give the rest of the players so much belief that.
Yeah.
And if he's doing it, I'm doing it. I'm going to follow it, because if he's doing it, I need to back him up. I need to follow it. And if he's doing it and I'm doing it, he's going to do it. And if he's doing it, the next person's doing it. It's a knock-on effect. And Cardiff are getting the rewards. And let's see where they can end, side, because it's going to be a long season. There's a lot of football to go. Obviously, they play tonight. Then they play Watford and Stoke and Swansea. So the next 3 games are going to be difficult after tonight. But it's about just getting the job done, getting more points on the board. If that's a point tonight, 3, move on to the next, move on to the next. Because every time we have this show, we cancel 2 games. So 2 games. And by the time we know we're going to have 6 games left, and the league's going to have probably set out a little bit that you need 4 more points to stay in there, or you need 3 points to get in there. And it's, you know what I mean? I'd rather be in there, set in stone, so you can look forward to the playoffs than get in there last minute and putting a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think one thing which I found really pleasing against Derby was when you had Bakuna running beyond the striker for his first goal. What pleased me about that was, one, that doesn't happen without Kiefer Moore's off the ball runs and movement, because there's no space. And second of all, is you look at Bakuna to score 2 fantastic goals running beyond the strikers, and then you think, well, he's wasted the last 8 months or whatever it is playing a fullback. How much could he have contributed to the team playing in centre midfield? How much could he have contributed to the manager? And the manager, you know what I mean? The manager's put him in that position because he didn't have any other options, or he didn't see his or he had no other options. Maybe he didn't have any other options, because he wanted to play him because he knew he was a good player, so he still played him. He didn't have NG to play, which, you know what I mean. It's things happen for a reason. Well, hang on, NG's not playing tonight, mate.
No, I know, but this you look at the pecking order, don't you? You know what I mean. But he was playing when Bakuna scored 2 goals the other night, so it's. Yeah,
of course. Gavin Randall says, Kiefer Moore can hold the ball up, and we have missed that for years, which is a very, very good point. We have. Mick McCarthy, mate, got a 2-year contract. 2-year contract for Mick McCarthy.
Yeah, listen.
It's shambolic, innit?
Yeah, it should have. Listen, 6-month contract when he took over was wrong. You know what I mean? He's wrong on so many levels. Wrong by the club for me. Wrong for the manager to accept it, because he's better than that, and he's proven he's better than that. For me, it's probably cost Cardiff City a lot more money, giving him this 2-year deal, because he'll have demanded more money, and Cardiff won't want to lose it. Yeah, it doesn't.
Do you think they panicked because of the Celtic, not just the Celtic rumours, but also that, you know, there's going to be other managers in the Championship which go, and they were worried that someone else was going to snap him up on big money because of the start he's made at Cardiff? Or do you think that, you know, they always planned that if he had a good start to give it to them? Because to me it makes no sense. Like, if you've given him 6 months or to the end of the season, and then you're going to re-evaluate where you are, whether you get promoted, playoffs, or you know, whatever it may be, it doesn't make sense to then, because he gets it. Most managers have a very good start to their, you know, you have a bump, don't you, of wins. Yeah. So it doesn't make too much sense to me to give him a 2-year contract now. Why wouldn't you have just given it to him in the first place?
I don't believe this was in place, because it would have been, for me, it would have been undisclosed, and they would have kept 6 months quiet. They've given him it, and now they've panicked a little bit, because they know in the summer he'd have gone somewhere else. So, you know what I mean? It's just, my saying, cream always rises. He's a good manager. He's proven, and all you can do is just carry on doing what he's doing. Proving people
I'm
wrong.
going to do this question now, mate, just because it falls in with Cardiff. Craig Sullivan says, would you play Bakuna instead of Harry Wilson?
What, tonight or just in general?
Just generally. Similar positions.
Maybe he's in different games. I probably would. Yeah, I think if I wanted like a away game tonight and we're going to be backs against the wall a little bit, I'd probably want Bakuna to go and ratting about. But I know he'll get the other side. Will Harry give me that protection? No, but he'll give me more quality going forward. So when I'm playing Derby County at home, we're going to have more of the ball. He can go and do what he wants. He can be a luxury. But sometimes in certain games, you need that defensive expertise, and Bakuna gives you both.
Indeed. Rhys David Evans made a couple of interesting comments. He says, I said it so many times, Nelson should have played right back. Why did we sign Benkovic? If you don't think he's good enough for centre-half, then what was the point? I mean, and that is the point. Like, that Benkovic signing on loan was a waste of time. Rhys also says he believes that they've given Mick McCarthy a 2-year deal because Mehmet Dalman and the board can basically say, we know what we're doing. Maybe sometime soon we'll be able to ask him.
I think we might.
Maybe. So we'll come back to some questions at the end. But next up is Bournemouth, mate.
Oh, fantastic week in two real tricky games. They beat Watford on the weekend 1-0 in a very angry end to the game. Jack Wilshere got sent off. Pedro got sent off. The scenes at the end were disgraceful. I'll be honest. It was very worrying to see when there's no fans there for players to still get so angry over the way that things were ending. It was all over the Bournemouth midfielder Lemmer diving apparently, and Pedro getting his second yellow card, and there was absolute chaos. But no, fantastic win there, and I think they got lucky midweek for me with the goalkeeping mistake and then the last minute winner. So, but Jonathan Woodgate will be pleased that he's got his side back in the playoffs. Yes, by a couple of points, but yeah, they need to kick on again now because they're a huge football club. But there's teams chasing them who are desperate for that last spot.
Is losing Jack Wilshere to a ban going to be a problem for them? Because I think he's been quite influential in the way they play.
Listen, you always want your best players. You always want to play your best players. But obviously, he got sent off with his yellow card, so he missed the game against Bristol City. He's served his ban now, so he's back for the week. He's back.
Right, okay. It wasn't a straight red, was it?
No, it was 2 yellows. So he got his second yellow.
So just looking now, he got sent off in the 99th minute. Did he get sent off after the game?
He got his yellow card after the final whistle. Yeah.
That's ridiculous in itself. So what they were so unhappy about, because I haven't seen that game, was something to do with a dive. But
yeah.
Was it a dive?
He went over very easy. It wasn't a dive for a penalty or anything. It was just a dive into waste time, and but it was in front of the dugout. People got involved, pushing and shoving, and then by the time you know it, every single player's involved. There's coaches and managers doing it. Jack Wilshere got someone in a headlock, so that's what he got his second yellow card for. But Pedro's already been sent off because Pedro's a very good player as well. So he obviously missed he'll get a banned as well. So it's you can't afford to do these silly decisions and get yourself sent off at crucial times. It's like you just said there, Si. Happened after the final whistle. Laugh about it in front of everybody and walk in the changing room because you just won the game. What do you want to get sent off after the game?
Get a grip. But piss poor I thought from both. I'm just watching the clip of them all having a little wrestle. Bizarre. Next up, mate, was Reading.
Oh, fantastic! 2 wins. You know what I mean? They're very up and down. Our form against Michael Morrison scored the winner against Rotherham on the weekend, which was fantastic to see. Love his celebration. Love everything about what he does. He loves his football. He's breaking records with the amount of consistent games he's playing. So another clean sheet again, but against Blackburn. But yeah, all I can do, Si, is just try and stay in because they've been there all season. They started the season first because of the start they had, and they're just hanging on there in the playoffs. So I do hope that they make it for Michael's sake.
Yeah, that'd be good. It would be good, mate. Puskas, by the way, what a signing he's been for Reading. Superb.
Yeah,
Really
fantastic.
enjoy watching him play football. Swansea City next, mate. Mixed week.
Yeah, not a great start on Saturday against Bristol City. 1-0 ahead, dominating the game, and then a quick fire 3 goals to finish.
Went to pieces.
Upset the apple cart, yeah. So, but then they go to Stoke City. For me, probably a harder game. And then they win it in the last minute. So swings and roundabouts. They're not having a great time at the minute. They're losing, winning. But they're still in there with an opportunity, with a shout. And they're not too many points off second place. You know what I mean? It's 1 point behind, obviously, Watford and Brentford ahead of them. So you know what I mean, that they're doing things right. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of sustained it. They've still got 2 games in hand as well.
Yeah. Watford next, mate.
Obviously, Watford lost against Brentford. Pedro got himself sent off. Wasn't a great ending to the game, but they made up for it in the week. They beat Wycombe quite comfortably 2-0. Dominated the game, dominated possession, the amount of chances. Gray got himself 2 goals. He's a Premier League centre forward side. So when you've got people like Andre Gray and Sarr and Sema and Tom Cleverley and Will Hughes, you've got a chance. Listen, when you've got those kind of players, the Premier League football is just playing in the Championship. It's a Premier League too, like we say, but that's why.
Indeed, mate. Big fan of Andre Gray, but I think Tom Cleverley should be the first name on everybody's team of the year. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
And next up, Brentford. They're having a bit of a wobble, maybe, but steadying the ship slowly.
Yeah, they were. They went 1-0 down against Stoke very early in the game, but composed themselves in the second half, got the right result second half, and went into the biggest game of the season against Norwich City full of confidence. But Norwich came out winners 1-0. Obviously, we're going to talk about Norwich in a minute. Buendia got the winning goal just before the half-hour mark, and to be honest, the gap's just at this time of the year. It's a tough one for all clubs to catch up. Brentford play Blackburn and then Derby next couple of games. So if they want to try and catch the leaders, they've got to start with 6 points out of 6 coming up.
Indeed, mate. Indeed. I like Brentford. I really want them to get that second automatic place, but they have not looked as assured lately. All over the place. So hopefully they can steady it. One team that does suddenly look assured again is Norwich. They've gone back to that unbeatable kind of feeling. At the start of the season. Yeah,
6 wins out of 6. They beat Wycombe Wanderers at the weekend, and then followed up with another clean sheet against Brentford. So 2-0 against Wycombe, 1-0 against Brentford. They're doing something so right side. They just get their job done. You know what I mean? They don't score too many goals, but do you need to score too many goals when you're keeping clean sheets and you've got just pure quality running throughout your team? You've got you've got Hanley, Ben Gibson, Krul in goal. You've got midfielders who are just running the show, and you've got Pookie leading the line. It's the spine of the team is key, and those guys are always seem to be on the team sheet week in, week out.
Leslie says, I'm watching this Cardiff game. Huddersfield are battering them, 70% possession, no shots from Cardiff. If this was a boxing match, the towel would have been thrown in.
What's the score?
Well,
What's the score? It doesn't matter.
That's it, mate.
You don't win games with possession.
Indeed. Oof, they're all in now, look. They're all in. Come on, Huddersfield. Ridiculous. Impartial I am. So we had a few questions, mate, from earlier on, which I'm going to go back to in just a second. But we're going to go with our 2 ups and 2 downs for the week. The downs are notoriously hard to pick. I have managed to get 2 after I just picked another one during the show. What's your first down, mate?
My first down is Bristol City's goalkeeper, which is Bentley, for his mistake against Bournemouth. It wasn't even a difficult one. It was just laughable, unfortunately, and it's cost his team dearly. And unfortunately, it's cost them. For me, it cost them 3 points because they were dominating the game.
Yes, yeah, it was a big one, wasn't it? It was a poor one.
Yeah.
So I do struggle, as you know, to pick these downs sometimes. But there was one gentleman who really irked me this week, and that was, I mentioned him earlier, Wayne Rooney's post-match interview. He was talking about Cardiff, and he very much made out as if the reason Cardiff had won is because Cardiff was so physical, and they'd kind of like bullied him around a bit. And I didn't like that because Cardiff scored 3 very good goals. 3 of them were very good football goals. They scored 4 very good goals. And those goals had nothing to do with physicality and everything to do with quality. And I didn't like that. I felt like that was the easy way to kind of make excuses for why they'd lost, just rolling out the same cliches. Cardiff deserved more credit than that. They played better than that. They played good football and they scored very good goals. So there.
I agree. I totally agree. Totally agree.
What's your second down, mate?
My second down, I was going to... well, it's a bit of a mixture, so I'm going to go with Jack Wilshere, I'm going to go with Bournemouth's players, and I'm going to go with Watford's players, because I just thought it was just a meaningless incident which just didn't need to happen. It was run about a bunch of role models who should know better, and if that was the last game of the season and the other team had just pipped the team and emotions were high, I'd probably get it, but it doesn't need to happen.
Even if you had the fans like egging it on,
do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I thought. It
was all a bit pathetic to me. I had them down as well because I was struggling for a second one, and I just thought it was like, having just watched the clip in the last 10 minutes, I thought it was pathetic, mate, to be honest. I really, it's like, get a grip. Like, the game was over. It wasn't really anything like controversial. Come on, suck it up, be professional. You're not new to the game, like, do you know what I mean?
I totally agree.
Especially with the amount of coaching staff that got involved in that and stoked it up.
Totally agree.
So, we're going to refer to some questions, mate.
We're going to 2 ups. We need two ups.
Yeah. See, that's me all over in there. To get the negatives in and then forget the positives. So I'm going to change it up, mate, okay? I'm going to go first. Just to throw you. My first up is Ryan Tunnicliffe of Luton Town. Absolutely phenomenal performances in both games, but most importantly, 2 vital goals. Obviously, they won 1-0 and 3-2. Those goals, to pick up 6 points in that week and get those 2 goals, I think is, they could be so important come the end of the season.
I agree. Great shout. My first one is Andre Gray. His 2 goals against Wycombe Wanderers. He's a Premier League goal scorer. He reminds me a little bit like Dwight Gale at Newcastle United, that he's got pace, he runs in behind, he causes problems, and he's going to score goals. He's going to score a lot more goals in the rest of the season, by the way.
Good shout, mate. Craig says second down is Swansea. They dived to cheat and win the game. No bias there, I don't think. My second up is Ladapo from Rotherham.
That was mine, that.
Oh boy, that's why I went first.
I know.
He was, what a goal, mate. What a goal. Last
fantastic.
minute. And what I like, and you put it perfectly earlier in the show when you said everyone thought he was going to just run into the corner, take the point.
Yeah, I did.
And he just went, whoop, flew like a rocket. And that's what I love to see from my footballers, mate, is positivity. Go and win the football match. However, we say that, we criticised Nottingham Forest earlier for, trying to score goals when they didn't need to. But that was slightly different because they could have lost whatever it was, 4-0 or whatever, and still got to the playoffs. And because they kept trying to score goals.
How would the manager feel? How would the manager feel if he shot, the goalkeeper saved it, and then he kicked it
and
up
then
they
scored?
Yeah. So listen, I know we're picking now. You know what I mean? But listen, it was a fantastic goal, and the celebrations at the end was fully deserved from what he did. So fantastic.
And what's your second up, mate?
I've gone. I was going to go Cardiff, but I've tried to stay away. I've tried to be impartial. I've tried to mix it up a little bit. You know what I'm like. So, I don't always want to pick negatives and positives from Middlesbrough or Cardiff. So I've gone for Alex Mowat at Barnsley, midfielder. Scored goals this week. He's had 2 assists this week. He's had a fantastic week, and I think for a team like Barnsley, they deserve the credit. You know what I mean? You said it last week, and these kind of players.
Last week, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, these kind of players in the football club needs a recognition because they're having an absolutely fantastic season. So, you know what I mean? Credit where credit's due. Yeah, listen, and I refer back to my point earlier on about the season they had last season. They escaped in the last kick at Brentford on the last day of last season. You know what I mean? So things could have been so different this year. All the players could have left. The club could have been in turmoil, financial turmoil because of what's going on with COVID. They've stayed in the Championship. And look where they are. They must be absolutely pinching themselves. But now they've got themselves with a manager and a bunch of players who they now believe can get in the playoffs. So let's see.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting to see how they go. And of course, like Craig said in the comments, he said Bakuna's performance. I think that was kind of next on my list in terms of if I had to pick another one, because I thought he was outstanding. So we're going to go back to some of these questions. They were right. So I'm going to scroll all the way back up to the top. If you have got any questions, you can send them in now as we just finish off. Where do we go? Where was it? Try to find it. It was Riverside, wasn't it? He sent one in. So how is the Cardiff game going? Have you got it on, mate? I haven't got it on. So
yeah, they're getting dominated in possession. There's only one shot on target. That's by Huddersfield, by Bakuna, but not Cardiff's Bakuna, by Huddersfield's Bakuna.
I see.
But
brothers?
But yeah, I don't know. Interesting. Isn't one Brazilian?
Brothers.
One Brazilian.
Is it?
I don't know. I thought the Bakuna for Huddersfield might be Brazilian. I might be wrong.
There you go. Very possible, mate. I trust you over me, mate. So,
Rob Boyle's question's a corker. I think it's related to me.
Go on then. Can you bring it up, because I'm right at the top of the comments at the moment.
Do Cardiff have shares in a headband in a hairband company? Yeah, they've had it, Rob, since I played. So it's just to help keep the hair out the eyes. Oh, I could put it underneath here.
Sponsorship thing, innit?
Yeah.
They must have sponsorship.
Yeah.
So Riverside, right at the start of the show, he asked a couple of good questions, but he said one which I really liked was, should we get ex-players on the VAR with the refs? Because he said he still thinks VAR should go, but having ex-players be the video assistants, what do you think about that as a concept?
I think they should get ex-players to help with the rules and help with the kind of concept. I'm not sure an ex-player sitting in a room would quicken things up, because players look at things differently. You know what I mean? For me, as long as
you get more decisions right though with ex-players?
I think you'd get it more consistent if the players were involved with the process. You know what I mean? So handball, for example. You know what I mean? If it was daylight for offside. You know what I mean? If the players want these kind of things back in place, then I think it'll work better. But for them to be in charge of VAR, I'm not really sure that it would get it right,
better.
Get it wrong, get it better, get it quicker.
Well, interestingly, was it Mark Halsey? I think when we had on the show, I think it was him. It might have been Jeff Winter. One of them said that obviously the referees from quite a young age put their own allegiances. They're almost trained. They don't tell anyone who they support, and they're almost trained into it. Players don't. Like, look at you, for instance. You are very much Boro, Cardiff supporting, and it's difficult. It is difficult to be impartial. We do a championship show, and I try so hard not to just be like pro Cardiff all the time, but it's difficult because that's what I've grown up on, and I try to give Swansea credit when when they deserve it. That's difficult for me.
I've had a lot of people on social media giving me a little bit of stick that I'm a little bit negative on Middlesbrough, and I'm not negative, and I'm not over negative, and I don't mean to be, because I see a lot of them. I'm a realist, you know what I mean, and I don't do it because that'll be an interesting game then. I don't do it out of nastiness. I don't do it because I'm jealous. I don't do it for any other reason. I just want them to do really well, and I just. But yeah, you know what I mean. We had Jeff Winter on the show, and Jeff used to do all my friendly games at Middlesbrough behind closed doors, because he used to help us with the new rules which come into place, and he'd stop it and he'd explain it whilst the game was on, and I thought it was really helpful. You know what I mean? Whereas I don't believe that happens anymore now. You know what I mean? Because, like you say, that the affiliation with referees and clubs, people don't want to link themselves with the club. But back in the day, Jeff used to do it all the time. He'd come in, explain the new rules. He'd do the behind closed doors friendly games between the players, stop it and say, that's offside, and he'd be going, it's never offside, but it's offside because the new rule states daylight or whatever. You know what I mean? So, and it's important that that's explained to players.
Spot on, mate. A couple of questions. We had Rob Boyle said, who's the better striker, Davy Jones' favourite son, or Kiefer Moore's Ballon d'Or?
Oh, I think there's no comparison. You know what I mean? For me,
Davy Jones' favourite son.
No, for me, Kiefer's at another level, because For a big, tall guy when I look at him, his attributes, I'm thinking target man. That's all he's got. Put the balls in the box. He's more than that. You know what I mean? His work rate, his athleticism, his desire, his work rate's phenomenal. His touch for a big man. The goals that he scored, he doesn't just score headers, by the way. He puts himself running in behind, and he's got composure. And I hope I'm not building him up here to get a move or to fall flat in his face. But listen, you know what I mean. But Cardiff paid big money for him, so if Cardiff ever do sell him, I expect huge money.
I saw a tweet the other week, which was like Kiefer Moore's gone from a 3 million being questioned.
Joe Bagan,
is he worth 3 million?
Joe Bagan's
now
just
being
been
at least 15 million.
Joe Bagan's just been subbed off, injured. Yeah, that's ridiculous, isn't it? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Do you know what? And that happens. Do you know what? I feel so sorry there because that's awful. Because
that's his big chance, isn't it, to get a run of games?
You know what I mean? Because let's be honest. I don't know how serious it is, but that was an opportunity there to get 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 games.
Yeah, that's really. I feel for him big time there. Riverside also asked earlier, why do you think Jones struggled at Stoke but is doing so well at Luton again?
Some players and managers have that comfort zone and have that love, and the fans love him. He's loved at Luton Town. You know what I mean? The first time he was there, he achieved loads with getting promoted twice. So for me, the pressure on Stoke City was probably overhyped. You know what I mean? They were expecting to get back in the Premier League side straight away. You know what I mean? They had the likes of I can't think of his name now. Goalkeeper. I can't remember what he's called. I've lost all train of thought.
Which one? Phillips?
No, the ex-England goalkeeper, Stoke City.
Butland.
Jack Butland. So they had Jack Butland. They had all these kind of ex-international players. Obviously, Joe Allen, etc. So I mean, people just expecting him to go and win the league. It wasn't going to happen like that. You know what I mean? The expectations were just far too high. So for me, he's gone back to a club which he's loved at. And he's doing a great job. But if he does ever leave again, he needs to be very careful.
Very just pick the right team, I suppose, isn't it? It's sometimes clubs just don't work for certain managers, players. It's just the way it is. It doesn't make them bad players or managers. Looks like Joe Bagan's got a shoulder injury. A couple of people say it doesn't look too bad. Looks like he jarred it and sliding tackle. Fingers crossed for Joe Bagan because that was a big chance for him. Big chance for Kieran Brown though coming on. He is naturally a centre back, but young player like that, he should be good for a run at wing back. You know.
No, listen, it's an opportunity. He's going to get himself 15 minutes or so. You know what I mean? So it's he's going to get a good solid second half. He'll get his legs going in the next 5 or 6 minutes before half time. So yeah, good luck to him.
Indeed, mate. So that's us. So we got a few scheduling notes. Monday night we have none other than Southampton legend Klaus Ludendijk, nearly butchered his name, joining us on Monday, which is going to be absolutely phenomenal because he's a very, very interesting guy. And from what I've seen, he doesn't do a lot of media and stuff. So it'd be really interesting to chat to him and get a bit of some questions going for him and stuff. Sunday, episode 1 of my story, series 2, with author and Forest fan Gary Boatsy Clark will be out, which I'm really looking forward to people seeing because it's a fascinating show. Just telling his story, talking about some of his books, and basically how he's turned his life around. Of course, in about 20 minutes, we'll be doing Super Kevin Scripted Live, which is Kevin McNaughton. And we'll be talking all sorts of random subjects set by you, the people. And we've got some massive guests coming up on the Fight Show over the next couple of weeks in the build-up to the Cage Warriors event. Some exclusive guests as well. So check them out. But Andy, as ever, mate, it's been a massive pleasure. Big thank you to Black Diamond Sports, of course, and Bespoke Financial for sponsoring the show. And most of all, mate, David Jones' favourite. Thank you.
No, I loved it, mate. Loved it. Really excited for Monday. Klaus is he seems like a really fun guy. He's obviously a Saints legend, international footballer, ex-footballer. He's played at the top level, country and club. So yeah, really looking forward to digging deep and seeing what makes him tick as well.
Indeed. So here you go, mate, right? Just in the spirit of Super Kevin scripted, I'm going to finish off. I'm going to do an Andy Campbell Would You Rather. Nice and easy. Nothing too rude, because this isn't that sort of show. You have to wait about 20 minutes for that. Andy Campbell, would you rather be a unicorn or a Pegasus?
I'd have to say unicorn, because my daughter would love me even more. So you know what I mean. It would just be amazing. She wouldn't leave me alone.
The greatest dad ever.
I'd be the elite. I'd be the elite
hero of all heroes.
Yeah.
Right, guys. We'll see you. See you soon. See you Monday. See you in a bit.
Cheers, guys.
Take care.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
I belong to you. I belong to you. Do just what you want.